have flood myths. And people go like, well, the Bible isn't unique. There are flood myths that are in so many different cultures around the ancient world. Therefore, your flood myth is just one of many different myths, and it's a myth. At which point, it's like, wait a second. So you have like a couple dozen ancient cultures around the world who have never talked to each other ever until basically the modern age. They've had these very ancient flood myths, and well, there's actually a little chart in the book that I have right here, which is showing some of them and comparing some of the different factors. So let's say man is sinful, which is why this is happening. There's a divine destruction. There's a favored family who is saved. There's an ark or some other ship provided. There's destruction by water. The humans are saved. Animals are saved. There's universal destruction elsewise. There's a landing on a mountain. Birds are sent out. Survivors worship, and then divine favor is on those who are saved. So there's these different criteria, and there's actually one other myth that has all those, and then some of them just have different portions of them. But you have a whole bunch of different flood myths around the world, which are agreeing with the biblical account to some degree. At which point it's like, well, why would we say that this is proof against the like? Wouldn't a whole bunch of universal acclaim that this happened mean that it happened? You could try and argue which one's more accurate, but everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, they all the same story.
Exactly.
And even I thought even like from what I understand about the Babylonian story of the flood, isn't even technically as old as Genesis.
It depends what you mean by technically as old, because in the I want to say Numa Elish, but I'm second guessing myself, because I know it comes up in the Gilgamesh epic, but there's a version that comes up slightly earlier.
That's the one I would have studied.
Yeah, so this one's just talking about the Gilgamesh epic, but I know there's one that's slightly older, because that's where the Gilgamesh epic derives it from.
Oh, okay.
So the Gilgamesh epic is coming from, I want to say around 2100 BC. It's been a long time since I read it.
1500 BC, but
no, it's a bit older than that, because it's actually going through Sumerian. Yes. Yeah, so the tablets dated to 650 BC. But since it's dealing with the Sumerian kings list and everything else, the era of the Sumerians is dying out around 2100 BC. So the story itself could actually be dating to as old as that, even though the tablets are much younger. So with the Genesis account, yes, we absolutely do have the book of Genesis composed earlier than that, because if it's by Moses, then it's the 15th century BC, so it's very much older than the tablets. Right. But that also depends on, well, which one would you consider to be older, because if it's coming by Moses around 1500 BC, or when was the original poem made, and when is Utnapishtim, who is the Noah of the Sumerians, when was he supposed to have that poem first come about? Yeah. So it's hard to say, because we just don't have those ancient records. Mm. But even if we are saying that Utnapishtim is coming about in, let's say, 2100 BC, the flood, if we're just going by, well, just adding all the numbers in scripture, the age of dates, that is coming to about 2800 BC. Mm. So it's still within the same time frame as the Babylonian. Oh, maybe not 28. No, that's not, I'm sorry. It's later than that. 2500 BC, something closer to that. Sorry. Anyway. So when you have a whole bunch of flood myths and they're all agreeing with, at least in part, with what we find in the scriptures, this is actually good evidence to say, hey, ancient cultures have been talking about this forever. They've experienced at least something like it. And usually the response to that is, hey, well, they just had a whole bunch of local floods. It's like, well, then why is all the accounts about universal floods, or the vast majority of them, about universal floods? And since it's all these ancient cultures around the world who are having the very similar flood accounts, wouldn't that actually be a better indicator of a global flood?
Logical.
Yes, exactly. And then I make that point, and then people are like, I don't want to talk about this anymore, and then they just